When I disappears and I remains as a mystery of life, who knows, free will or not, nothing matters anymore. I don't like to say this anymore, that the I disappears. I know I used to speak like that, and yeah, it just doesn't resonate with me so much anymore to speak like that, because I feel like there's so much of a misunderstanding when that's said, when the I disappears. To me, what I like to say is that when the consciousness now, or like life, is identified with the person, because there's always going to be this person, this character that's looked for it through. So what do you mean by the I disappears? Like the I stops being the watcher, or the I stops being the experiencer, but then there's still a character that appears, so still the appearance of someone. So right now there is nothing looking, but as soon as time is thought about, then the character appears, and in a way everything that's expressed is expressed in the character pattern of Lisa. So everything that's done comes from a pattern in the Lisa form. Like even in the way that non-duality is spoken, like I'm speaking spontaneously from this moment, but the way in which I speak is the pattern of Lisa. Like I speak differently from Roger Castillo or Rupert Spira or Umani. Like Lisa's got her own unique flavor. And that's because it's spoken through the pattern of Lisa, but right now it's consciousness speaking. So I no longer like to say this. Like I remember, years back, there's this teacher that I was in communication with and friends with in a way, and we were talking about like how you know the I is there or not, and I began to realize that I really don't know if the I is here or not. Like I don't know what that means. Like how would you know that? And that there's an appearance of Lisa, so there is this Lisa character appearing. It's just that Lisa isn't the experiencer anymore. Lisa is a character appearing. But what does it mean when the I disappears? I think it maybe means like a sucking in of that I and then making that I really dense here. That's how I think I used to speak about it. But as I've spoken more about it, and like this is integrated through my body, it really doesn't resonate for me, that way of speaking anymore or teaching. Like you could say, like in this moment there is nobody here. That's so beautiful. But then at the same time that's still conceptual. Like in a way it's like, it's not even there's nobody here. It's just, but there is this character, always this character that's coming and going. Yeah. Thank you, Apana, so much for your question. And I know some teachers talk about the I completely disappearing, but I don't know what they mean by that. And I don't know if I'm talking about the same thing. Like, so I know that the like neo-advaiters would say that I'm not speaking about the same thing. I don't know if I'm speaking about the same thing. Like in the beginning, because I had been so heavily taught by neo-advaita, like I felt like I knew what that meant. But over time, like you begin to question all these teachings more and more. And I really don't know if I know what that means. The I disappears. Like what it really feels like here, if I really like narrow down it, is it feels like nothing is speaking. There is nobody here in the way, like there's nobody here, it's just coming out. There's no center point, there's nothing which is speaking, there is nothing which is looking, but there's this character that's coming and going constantly. And this expression through this body will always, like in some way, have some form of identification with this body. Like it's like that nothingness that's experiencing isn't experiencing in the wall out there. it is in a way, if you zoom into the moment, like you can't tell where the experiencer is, it's everywhere. But it's like as soon as we begin to get into the language, like it is coming from this apparent angle, even though when everything's dropped, it's not. It is seemingly coming from this angle. Like, and you can also say it's not. The semantics of words in a way. But I don't know if I relate to that teaching anymore. I remember when I first had the energetic shift, I was like, my God, this makes no sense. Like, no teaching touches this. No teaching touches this. But then when you become a teacher, you kind of you have to say things in order to try to express this, even though you know that the words don't match it. And you kind of get pushed into areas of teaching. Like, it's not anybody's pushing you, but it's like you have to have words and sentences in order to define and in order to teach something. Whereas really the greatest teaching there is and the more that I on the human level has evolved, the more the teaching evolves through this body. Like, the more it's not the teaching's understood, but the more it's integrated into the body. So if you listen to me 5 years ago or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 years ago, like, it will be different from the way it is now. And it might even sound like it's contradictory, but it's because everything evolves. And so through this human body, it's seen in a different way and it's expressed in a different way. In a way, the core is still the same, that awakening is still the same, but the shift and the evolution and the problems, you begin to see the problems with teaching in specific ways. Maybe you become a little bit allergic after a while of teaching to this. You meet so many people using these teachings in a destructive manner, which is okay. And like people, like seekers, using it in a destructive way against each other and against themselves. And that also affects the way you teach. And so many no people thinking that they're enlightened. So no eyes thinking they're enlightened.